approval of the agenda and introduction of any late items. Carla.
I have one late item. It's a discussion about Grafton Lake. It kind of fell off the agenda because we talked about Grafton Lake last time for the parking, but we still needed to talk about the dogs on leash issue.
Okay. All right. And what number would that be then? Steph, you got it lined up?
4.3.
Okay,
yeah.
Thank you. So any other objections to adopting the agenda? No? Okay. Can I have someone move to accept the recommendation that the minutes of the Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee meeting held November 18th be adopted with the minutes? Sorry. Okay, my screen is, yeah, that the agenda be adopted. Can I have someone? Thank you. And the seconder? Penny? Thank you. Okay, so adoption of the minutes. Did anyone have any edits or clarifications needed on the minutes? No? Okay. Can I have someone move that we adopt the minutes? Ben, thank you. And seconded?
Rob has his hand up.
Oh, Rob, thank you. Okay. And everyone in favor? Okay, thank you. That passes. And do we have any public comments today, Steph?
Nope.
Okay.
No.
So for 4.1 is the draft bench policy review, and Carla's going to speak to that. Thank you, Carla.
Hey, sorry, I'm just trying to find my most recent copy so I can make edits as we go. I'm not sure if everyone had a chance to look it over, but we did a subcommittee with Sue Ellen and Penny and Nicola, and we only ended up meeting one time, but I took their advice into account and looked over a couple of different policies from different communities and used those to craft something. It's fairly simple. It's basically just a one-pager, I think, and I think it captures most of what we talked about. What I was trying to make sure that I did is just to make sure that it wasn't a given that anyone could have a memorial bench anywhere they want, that we, are open to it. We would ask that people consider getting a plaque in the Memorial Garden in Crippen Park as the first option, and that if they were still keen on it, that we would consider it. I wasn't very specific about locations because we don't have a lot of locations. A lot of policies already, there's a lot of places have a lot of locations already. So they have a given price. They already have the concrete pad ready to go. And then you just pay a renewal fee or for a new bench kind of thing. But we don't have a lot of areas where we have like paved sidewalks and areas where it's very obvious that the bench would go. So we kind of depend on people to find the place that is special to them. And then we can either say yay or nay kind of thing. So the idea is that someone would come to us. They would still, as we've done in the past, do find the location, pay for installation, pay for the bench kind of thing. And then we've added a kind of renewal period on it. So you would have the bench for 10 years and then we could offer it to someone else if they didn't want to renew. And so the price for renewal would just be based on what the price is at that point in time for any kind of refurbishment if it was required. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I think I kind of captured what there is there. If I'd love to hear if anyone has any comments, and What you think?
Sue Ellen?
Yeah, I just have one. I've been reading it again. I sent some notes to Carla like about half an hour ago, not very long. And since then I've been reading it again and going, oh no, I see what she means. Okay, so my main one is that where it says under the words guidelines, the next paragraph, it says memorials may be limited in number. I thought it would be really clear to future members of council if it also said and limited in highly visible, because the way it reads, it could be misinterpreted as to be, and it should be in highly visible. So I would just like to add the word, I propose adding the word limited again, so it right before the word in highly. Does that sound okay, Carla? You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Carla, are you making notes in a Word doc now?
Yes, I found it finally, so I've got it. Yeah, thank you.
And then I also had a thought, because I'd been confused about plaque or bench, but that was about the memorial garden. What if people want to put up a bench without a plaque? Could we include that here so people could see it as an option? Sometimes there's other family members who are going, well, I could support that, but I don't see that the option is clear. Somewhere in there, I thought, I don't know where it would be best, but that they didn't have to put a plaque on it. Is another idea.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Maybe under F, it
Yeah,
could
I was looking at that one as well.
it could say, P.S. a plaque is not required, or something.
Yeah.
And so we can discuss that. And then my third idea is, and I don't think I sent this to you, or maybe I did, I don't know. In Crippen Park, there is now a bench with a big, larger plaque on it that includes a QR code. And I tried it out, and it takes you to a online memorial site for a child who's died. And it's, I'm sure lots of us have seen these online memorial sites, but I don't want to say anything bad about that family or that decision, but I would prefer, and I just wanted to suggest to this committee that there be no QR codes, be explicitly in the policy, or some other way. I like what you say about good taste and offensive, but none of those captures this QR code, which kind of takes you outside the nature experience that you might be going for a walk for, to a sorrowful.
I do see one definite positive to not having the QR codes, because the wording is somewhat vetted, I imagine, so that it isn't offensive or what have you. And that's in a plaque that's not going to change, but a QR code can be changed every day to something different. So there's no vetting involved of going forward.
I agree with that, because I think, did we have something that was also non-denominational or wouldn't have any religious connotation or connection? Or because then if you've got QR codes, you really have no control over where that goes. So I think I agree that we should.
Is there something about religion as well, Carla?
No, there isn't. We just have we have memorial plaque text is in good taste and does not include advertising and promotion, offensive or prejudicial language, or QR codes. I did put in applicants are encouraged to include positive and uplifting messages, just because I saw it in someone else's policy and I thought that's kind of nice. We don't have to put it in there, but I can add offensive, prejudicial, or religious. I don't know. There was,
I don't know, that's a bigger discussion, I think, but.
Yeah, sorry, I don't mean I'm okay with religion in general, but I just am saying I agree that you don't know where that's going to go with QR codes. So
Mhm, mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
do we think that's something that should be included?
Sue Ellen, does the council have a policy about this kind of issue? Because
Don't think currently they have any kind of denominational policy. But with current events in other parts of the world and what we see happening online and other places with, I like the idea of saying non-denominational, just because it keeps it clear. I don't know, what do other people may have a lot more experience with this kind of thing than I do. I don't know about non-denominational.
Chuck?
Well, I think that just to keep it simple is the best policy. So if you help them guide them in the language that they can use, like in memory of, and then the name of the person, and then just keep it at that, I think that would be sufficient. But I'm wondering why we would have a memorial bench for somebody who maybe wasn't key in, say, enhancing the green spaces on Bowen. I thought that maybe if we limit it to people, if we put a bench in a park or along a trail, that, for instance, Dennis Lynn, passed away several years ago, but he was very key in mapping out trails on Mount Gardner. And there was talk about putting a bench on part of where Hikers Trail Road and Dennis Lynn Trail meet. We actually, as part of the Bowen Island Trail Society, did name a trail in his honor, but I'm just wondering if those benches or plaques could be limited to the Memorial Garden for people who haven't really done anything for the green spaces. Just a thought. And who pays for these benches? But was it the people who want to memorialize that individual? They pay for the bench?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Mhm.
If we do go ahead with that, I think that it would be good for us or for the Muni to decide where it should go, because we probably have the breadth of experience to identify a really good place for a bench, not just anywhere, but one where, it's close to a viewpoint or it's a natural resting area. I think that would be appropriate as well.
That might be something to put in the document, actually, Carla, that the Parks, Trails, and Greenways review applications for memorial benches and locations.
Mhm. Yeah, that was a question that I had, was, how involved the Parks and Trails Committee wanted to be in choosing a location. When we've done it in the past, we've asked people to suggest a location because we haven't necessarily had one in mind. So there were a couple where we thought, oh, this would be a good place for a bench, but we don't have a very long list. And because I've had more requests lately and because some people have places that are special to them in some way, that we're kind of open to other locations as well.
I agree, but I think it would be good even to do a site visit, because it could be this fabulous viewpoint. It seems like a great place for a bench, but that's not the experience that the majority of users were, wanting to come to the viewpoint to a bench, if it's like a wild coast or something. Like, I think there can be situations where it could be, serving the greater good, like representing, all the Bowen Islanders and not just the sponsor of the bench. Sue Ellen?
Yeah, I'm looking at the link in agenda item number 4.1, and takes you to the draft guidelines and policy that Carla and the subcommittee's been working on. And it does include the line under the word guidelines, municipal, after it says encouraged to use the Memorial Garden. First, municipal parks, trails, and beaches are important to all users, and primary use of these spaces should be respected when considering new memorial benches. Memorials may be limited in number and limited in highly visible and significant locations, so that a high quality user experience and ability to connect with nature is maintained.
Oh,
So-
okay. Sorry, I missed that. Yeah.
I wonder, well, I think it's clear there, and I sent a few other ideas out, but
But then who is judging this each and every time? It's staff, I presume, but they might want the opinion of the committee as well.
well, right now it's staff. That's sort of operational if we're, as a committee, providing advice. And right now it's staff who's taking the phone calls or the emails from prospective donors. So we end up with benches where we might not otherwise have benches. And maybe we want to leave it up to Carla to say, look, I'm getting all these requests. Maybe I need a list of suggested places or something.
Well,
yeah,
up to Carla, if she, I mean, and the rest of the group, do you think this is too small an issue to have it, just looked over by this group who would be under purview, but if only if council, I guess, asks staff to refer it. But anyway, Carla, I think, in my opinion, we have the time and resources to help you if you need help or want help.
I think what would work best for me, like I do a site visit whenever someone has a request. I've done a site visit with them, and especially just to look at the area too and make sure that there's no concerns about streams nearby or coastal bluff sensitive areas, things like that, and and make sure that it seems like an appropriate space. I think that it might cause unnecessary delays if we had to do a site visit with the Parks and Trails each time. It would be really, I don't mind bringing them to the request to Parks and Trails for approval, but part of the policy is kind of we're trying to streamline. These requests have been taking a lot of my time,
Right.
so I do want to make it a little faster. So
Yeah.
essentially, like a list of locations, appropriate locations, would be really, really helpful. That the Parks and Trails Committee comes up with.
Okay. So that should be on a future agenda. Maybe people can let that brew a little and then get some ideas. Penny?
I just wanted to bring it back to the non-denominational, and I think that's an important words to include to make it more inclusive. If someone's walking through and wanting to use the bench.
Okay.
So
I'm happy to put that on.
That would be great. Yeah.
Okay. Sue Ellen?
Yeah, I have one or two. In H, alterations to the bench and its surroundings are not permitted. This includes wreaths, etc., attaching, altering, or removing trees or other vegetation. Can you include the word planting with removing? Thank you. Because sometimes people will plant a rose bush or something, and just to make that clear.
Good point.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we have the recommendation in front of us that the Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee recommend that council adopt the commemorative bench policy as presented and amended at its, just a typo there, '(S), November 28, 2023 meeting. And can I have someone move that? Ben, and seconded. Nicola, thank you. And all in favor? All right, unanimous. Thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
Chair.
Yes.
To recap, the action here is next agenda, generate a list of potential locations to be used to support the bench policy. It's not an appendix or anything.
Yes, that sounds good.
And that is homework or just discussion? Both.
It should be a bit of homework, yeah, so we
Okay.
have something to discuss
Okay.
and speed the discussion up a bit. Okay, so we're on 4.2 municipal trails on Cape Roger Curtis, and Carla, please.
All right, it's a bit of a Carla show tonight. This is just in reference to when a community member came to speak to us. Bobby Parker had a presentation. She recently purchased a piece of land out at Cape Roger Curtis, and it is along the Roger Curtis Trail. So where that center area is, it does the cross. So it's the it's the west. Oh, that's difficult. The western part of the trail skirts along the side of her property. She's concerned because the trail has kind of, gone off of where it's supposed to be a little bit. So the idea was that we could potentially move the trail. She proposed that we reroute it down one of the driveways that comes just before her property. She approached me with the idea a while before. I wasn't, I was honest and said I wasn't going to be particularly supportive of the idea. And that was only because I thought that the connection that was there was a pretty good one, because it led right into Roger Curtis Lane and down to Pebble Beach. But I did say that she was welcome to speak to the Parks and Trails Committee. And she did present, and she had some valid points. There might be potential cost with moving the trail back to where it's supposed to be. And then she presented some data from like a running app, I think, that showed that a lot of users are already using that driveway rather than the trail. And maybe that's because it's a little too confusing or gets grown over. I'm not sure. I know that the operations staff has trouble keeping up sometimes because it gets grown over with grass pretty quickly in the summer. But I'm open to hearing what the committee has to say.
Phil, oh, sorry. John. And then I think I saw Jeremy and Ben. Anyone else want to be on the list? Okay, Chuck, go ahead.
Oh, okay. I'm not really clear on where that trail is. Are there trees along the trail?
There's some, but it's mostly, yes, earlier in the trail, it's mostly kind of rocky at the top. Then there's some stairways. There's 2 sets of stairs. At the very bottom, it wasn't treed at all when I started working here, but right now there's quite a few alders on either side. They've come back and they're getting pretty big, but no conifers.
So would an easy solution just be to put trail markers on the trees to keep people along the trail, and then perhaps a signpost where there are no trees to direct people along the trail?
I think that could work for parts of it at least.
Thank you. Jeremy, I think is next.
Yeah, I'm a bit at sea. I can't recall exactly where this issue is. And do we have a map, Carla, at all that shows?
I think Bobby didn't send us her slides. She had shown us a map.
Yeah, she said she had a really good presentation and I asked her for it and she said she wanted to make it even better and then never sent it.
But I can
No offense to Bobby for your beautiful presentation, but we don't have it.
I can show you, I can share my screen and just show you exactly where it is so quickly.
While Carl is putting that up, the app was called a Strava, according to my notes, a Strava heat map. So this is something that runners and walkers and people who are tracking their fitness and what they do use. So it would be some users. I don't think all users use Strava.
No. Ben, you had your hand up earlier, did you?
I think I'm going to be answered when I see the map. I was just wondering if the trail is on a like substantial piece of municipal land, or is it just an easement?
So have you got my screen there?
Yes.
Yes.
So it's just an easement. I think it's about 6 meters wide. That's what most of them are in Cape Roger Curtis. And so this is the lot in question here. Sorry, that doesn't show very well. But this is the portion of trail. So this is what I was saying is I think it leads well into Roger Curtis Lane here. But the idea is that instead, so when you come out on this part of the trail, it is a little confusing. I know the first time I went there, I didn't see this second portion of trail. So I think that sometimes if this gets grown over a little bit, people just naturally use this driveway rather than going up and over the hill here. But I will also say that this is a really pretty portion of the trail. It's a lot of foxgloves grow there. They're not super desirable, but it's also kind of passes where all the lupins grow as well. And it's a nice little kind of curve and interesting part of the trail, I think.
Sorry, can you just
Hello?
refresh my memory? Is she just asking that is she asking that we change the trail or that we mark it better so that people don't use her driveway?
She would like the trail to be changed. So like that this be, I guess, like eliminated and that this driveway be used instead.
And whose driveway is that?
Is that a driveway or a road?
It's a driveway.
Okay.
It's a driveway, I think, for a couple of properties. So it does look a little bit like a road, but it's not. There's,
But it doesn't feed into you think people want to use the trail to access the beach? Is that a big part of the attraction to that trail?
I don't think it would be.
I just think that if users wanted to get to the beach, that this is a more direct route rather. I don't like to filter people out onto the road because they would have to walk on the road here.
Yeah, and so this person who came with this situation wanted that to be moved to basically the neighboring property.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you need from us, do you think?
Well, it's just if it's something that you guys wanted to entertain, then we could go on a walkabout. But if it's something that you weren't supportive of, then we can drop it.
So
Sorry.
Thanks. I just good conversation, and yes, this is a landowner who is asking us to move the trail off her property, basically. But I think the whole Cape Roger Curtis, a lot of this land is in currently belongs to Metro Vancouver. Is that right, Carla?
I don't. I think it's from here down.
Yeah.
There. So I don't know. I don't think either side of this would be Metro Vancouver land. So this trail, is all on Metro Vancouver land, though. That side of it is now.
Yeah. Okay. So all I was going to say is I don't think personally, I think it would be good to let the bigger picture of trails and park settle a bit before we do fine tuning like this. So I don't think there's a rush, but before we do anything, we should certainly do a walkabout if we thought it was a priority for a walkabout compared to the other things in the parks plan.
Yeah, I have to say, in fairness to her, that all things considered, if you bought that property before the parks issue came up and now you potentially have have the park in your backyard, that would mean a lot of people potentially walking through your property or along your property line. But I guess that would be true for any, like, where do you move it? That's not going to be an issue for somebody, I suppose, is the point. But I understand her concern as well. And I think, if I remember correctly, it was partly that people weren't completely sticking to the actual designated trail.
Yeah. Yeah, and you're right, Nicholas, she did make that point as well, is that there was concern that with more visitors, that it was going to become more of an issue. Yeah.
Ben had his hand up.
I just wanted to second Chuck's suggestion. It seems like a pretty straightforward solution. Just clearly mark the trail. I mean, doing our due diligence as a municipality to make sure that people aren't encroaching on her property, but also not losing what is probably a well-used trail. I've used it myself.
I don't think, well, Carla, can you clarify? It's not just about that. She doesn't want the trail to go on her property anymore. It currently is as a right of way, or is it anyway? That doesn't matter. And she'd rather it not go on her property anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So either it needs to be like, kind of put back into the, people have just taken the easiest route rather than the route where it's supposed to be. So we either have to make a move to put it back to where it should be, or to move it entirely is kind of the idea.
Jeremy, and then Sue Ellen, and then Chuck. Let's try and be brief.
Yeah, I think that trail, as I've walked it several times, is quite close to, I think, where their proposed building site is. So it's very much in evidence. There could be some concern on the part of the proponent for that. Also, the trail is a bit awkward in places, going over outcrop and so on. But it is a nice trail. I've seen a lot of interesting birds there. I'm not sure that there's an equivalence by walking along the road. I don't know, because I don't walk the road. I tend to walk the trail. But it is, as it stands, a nice trail, maybe not well enough marked.
Okay, who was next? Sue Ellen, and then Chuck, and then we'll try and wrap this part up.
I support Chuck's suggestion as being really efficient and as a way of reducing any trespass issues and making it clear to everybody where the existing trail right away is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And then just one quick addition, and I've seen this in other trails as well. If she wants to put a no trespassing sign at the border of her property as well, as us putting trail markers up and possibly a sign or so, then that would further mitigate any trespassing.
Okay, thank you. So Carla, we need to wrap it up somehow for you. Are you good?
I think that's good. I think that we could probably leave it with our operational staff to go out there, and we can walk it and try to make sure that it's in the right spot. And then if we found that it was more of an issue and wanted to bring it back to Parks and Trails to do a walkabout, and then we can do that.
Okay, thanks. When I say wrap it up for you, meaning you have what you need,
Yes.
obviously. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Sue Ellen?
Just a quick one. I don't think we've got a policy about marking trails and stuff. I just wonder, Carla, would you be following the bits way of marking trails as is used on on Mount Gardner, or other ways to help people just keep it simple?
Well, I don't know. We don't have a policy on that. We don't mark a lot of trails, actually, because most of our trails are pretty obvious. But I think that that's a good idea to use the same bits policy. So maybe I'll catch up with Chuck afterwards and make sure that we're using the same.
And we have extra markers.
There you go.
Okay, so, oh, Carla, do you need to drink some water? Clear your throat. You're up again.
I know, sorry, thanks.
5.1.
Okay, so the next one is Grafton Lake Dogs Unleashed. This is another community member that came to speak to us. Kathy Robertson was concerned about dogs around Grafton Lake. I guess she had had a bad experience with her friend being, I guess, kind of chased by a dog. She was quite scared. And then she was also concerned about nesting birds around Grafton Lake and in the wetlands. We spoke about it at the Environment and Climate Action Committee, and the ECAC recommended that council, I feel like, I guess I already told all you guys know this already, so I don't want to influence you too much, but ECAC recommended to council that Grafton Lake be an off-leash area, and they also were concerned about any other nature parks, and they suggested that Quarry Park and Headwaters Park should be on-leash areas as well. I think that was mainly because of the environment issue of the nesting birds. I think that for parks and trails, that maybe it's important for us to consider the different users of trails in our consideration of this issue.
Sorry, Carla, did you say ECAC said it should be an
said it.
off-leash?
You made a mistake, I think.
Oh, sorry, on leash. Yeah, they recommended on leash areas for Grafton, Headwaters, and Quarry.
Ben?
Sorry, I was swatting away a bug, but I'm just wondering, are there any official off-leash municipal parks or trails? Is there a general rule, or
All of them.
all of them are off-leash?
Well, nothing that Metrovan governs. And there is an off-leash park within Crippen.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no required, except in the Cove, but not in parks and on parks and trails.
Okay.
Beaches, there a certain class of beach, class 1, between, well, Carla could say this better, but the summer months. Otherwise, yeah, it's a very, very dog centric community we have on Bowen, but that comes at some costs. And in the environmental report for the Grafton Lake development, it was recommended that the trails of the proposed nature reserve be dog free. So at least dog leashed would be moving somewhat towards what is, from an environmental and wildlife perspective, a better way to go. Sorry, Penny?
Well, I'd like to advocate for a off-leash dog park on Bowen Island, at least one where people can know that it is an off-leash park, so that we can then perhaps not enforce, but encourage the on-leash places. I don't think Grafton Lake is the right place. I think I told the story when we were out there looking at parking, that I had a off-leash dog who came over a hill and jumped on someone on one of the steep pathways, and it could have ended in a very serious accident. So I don't think that's a great, for nature reasons and wildlife, but also from a sort of structural and safety standpoint.
Yeah,
I would really like to see an off-leash designated walking park, not just a fenced-in area.
Mm-hmm. Chuck?
Well, right now we have a lot of kilometers of off-leash trails. Mount Gardner, for example, Mount Gardner trails are off-leash. And I'm wondering about the trails around in the Radar Hill area. I think they're off-leash as well. So I don't know if we really need to create an off-leash park unless we want to designate Radar Hill as off leash. But certainly I prefer on leash everywhere, because as a runner, I always have to slow right down to almost a standstill for many dogs and try to be their friends, make friends real quick, you know. But so from my perspective as a trail runner, yeah, it would always be on leash.
Penny?
I just want to say that the from an accessibility point, a lot of those trails aren't accessible to people with mobility challenges. So I think that there's a lot of trails on Bowen Island that can be known to be on leash, and that the off leash one, people who want to run there will know what to expect. But just again, advocating for a off leash and accessible walking area.
Sue Ellen and then Rob.
A question for Carla. Carla, isn't it true now that Quarry Park and Headwaters Park and most other municipal parks are currently off leash?
Yeah, we have a dog bylaw that only like Claudia was saying, is the dogs only have to be on leash in the Cove. And then Metro Vancouver has their the on leash for Crippen Park. So the Cove, Crippen Park, and then no dogs on Tunstall, Bowen Bay, and Sandy Beach just during the summer months. Otherwise, dogs just have to be within your control. There's something specific about a little bit more specific about how far away they're supposed to be, but I can't remember the exact wording. We don't have to change the dog bylaw to have a park be on leash, but we are allowed to put signage up and do more education. If we decided that there was an issue in a park that needed to be resolved, through prohibiting certain behavior, then we could do that under the use of public spaces bylaw.
So Penny, there's lots of parks.
Right. I thought we were talking about making them all off leash at one point. It was mentioned, or sorry, all on leash.
Oh,
Yeah, in fairness though, I mean, there's not a ton of municipal parks that, well, maybe, that have trails in them. So all of the Mount Gardner areas are off leash, but as you said, some of those trails aren't as accessible. Anyways.
okay. Sue Ellen?
Now I forgot what my question was. Sorry. It's good. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
So,
Where does that bring us?
Ben.
Oh, yeah, do you mind if
sorry,
I
Ben.
just I would love to second that other committee's recommendation that Grafton Lake be on leash. I think it's a really reasonable and important idea.
Can we, staff, make a recommendation? to
Sure.
you?
Yeah.
I remember the question was, is it called a nature reserve or a park?
Nature Park.
Nature Park.
Thank you.
I think Nature Park is within the Parks Plan kind of, it's not a nature reserve. So it has some recreational values as well as, preservation values as well.
Jeremy?
I just wonder if it needs to be clarified exactly what the thresholds are for off-lead dogs in terms of municipal areas. I know in the UK, even the National Trust has rules that are fairly liberal.
There are rules set out in the bylaw of how far they can be away from you and having to be in your control. Is that what you're referring to? Sorry.
There are some of them. The assumption is that your dog will be under control. That's a requirement, actually, but how do you enforce that ultimately? Every dog is idiosyncratic, so but obviously in the UK things are people are dog crazy, so they make accommodation for that. And I understand it. I know a lot of people who are equivalently minded. But I think we need to establish what are the thresholds for municipal areas that would make dogs on lead required versus letting them run free. I don't know, is there any plans, Carla, for that in terms of defining the thresholds for that?
No, and I'm surprised that I don't recall it being addressed in any sort of detail in the parks plan either, because that's kind of our guiding document, and I don't I think that would be something that should have been captured within the parks plan. It wouldn't be separate from that. So
Sure, yeah.
Sue Ellen next.
That's why I was asking whether it was a nature park, because that's different from a passive park. And it implies, and through the whole planning process, there was tons of discussion and interest and concern about nature and nesting birds and making sure that that the wildlife didn't lose out. So I am, and that the people of Bowen don't lose out in the wildlife values. So I think, sure, there could be more refinements, and maybe we want to suggest them to Carla as policies and things like that. But right now it's a nature park. That implies that, and it says in the parks plan that part of it is so that people can enjoy the nature there. And it's hard to do that if there are no ducklings or whatever. Anyway, so that's one thing. And then the other thing is, as a former Metro Vancouver Parks user, if you say it's that dogs aren't allowed to be on leash, then you have a way of enforcing it. Because if you see one that isn't on a leash, you can hand them a piece of string and say, put your dog on the leash. So it's an easy enforcement, and just not something that has to be enforced all the time, but when you need to, you can. So I'll just stop there. Thank you.
Okay, so Steph, were you crafting something for us?
Yeah, it's pretty simple crafting. I think just that the committee recommend that the Grafton Lake Nature Park require that dogs be on leash. Is that a good capture?
Yeah, sounds good.
I think so. I think that I'd like an opinion on a quarry and headwaters as well, if possible. I think that council will like that because ECAC has already recommended that those two parks be on leash as well. So it'd be nice to know if the Parks and Trails Committee is supportive of that as well. I'm
definitely supportive of that, because otherwise, yeah, all our parks are off leash. So we're just choosing, 3, right, that are sensitive environmentally. Oh, sorry, Rob.
Carla, both those parks have significant bodies of water, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so does Grafton. Do we have any other municipal parks that have significant bodies of water? Like, could that be part of the criteria we're talking about here? Or
may I jump in?
Or is it coincidental?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, I don't think we should use that as a defining characteristic. I think it's partly coincidental, but not it doesn't mean that areas that don't have a body of water wouldn't make the cutoff. Maybe I misinterpreted what you're suggesting, but
I think Rob is making a good point, though, is that was part of the reason that Environment and Climate Action Committee wanted to make those parks on leash, was because of the riparian areas and their sensitivity. That was behind the reasoning behind it. But I think that it makes more sense to just say, nature parks, and what the intention is for a nature park, maybe.
As a starting point.
We could revisit, yeah. Nicola?
I think obviously it does include a whole other ecosystem when there's water there as well that needs protecting. And I just want to say I would support what the other committee had recommended as well. We're happy to support them.
Okay, well, shall we take a vote on it?
Penny's got her hand up. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, Penny, go ahead.
I'm the dissenting voice. I think I'd rather not put them together as I think there's different issues, and I want to go back to accessible municipal parks, and Quarry or Headwater Park is one of the few level parks for folks to walk on with a dog off leash.
Sue Ellen?
The committee might not remember, but like 25 years ago, Quarry Park, the trails around Quarry Park are designed to be above and around the main ponds in Quarry Park so that dogs don't have and people don't have access. There's no trails down. There were even some trails at one point that they were closed because of the purpose of Quarry Park was to restore the wildlife habitat below. So I'm actually with Penny here. The trail is above and away from the shoreline there. It was designed, the trails were sort of designed to separate people and dogs from wildlife sensitive areas down closer to the shoreline. Over.
Carla and then Jeremy.
So I was just thinking like something that that I would like to see too is that I see a lot of dog walkers driving to different places to bring their dogs for a walk. So I think it's nice to have different options within each neighborhood as well. And that might be a consideration, and you might think it's way off, but potentially we could make Headwaters, an off on leash trail or off one or the other kind of thing. Like Sue Ellen said, the trail is away from the water in Quarry Park, and then I think that the bog, even though it's sensitive, is fairly well protected. The way that the walkway is built in Headwaters Park is it doesn't encourage dogs to get in, and the forest is also quite dense there in most areas. So I don't know how much dogs are damaging any sensitive areas there or have the potential to. So I don't know. I think it's nice to have those options as well.
Nicola and then Sue Ellen and then Jeremy.
I know this is a really divisive issue with dog owners and not non-dog owners. I don't own a dog, but I love dogs. And what I've done with friends is go to the dog park to let the dogs have a good run before a walk in a leashed area. I wonder if there's anywhere on the other side of the island to put a dog park so that maybe the same option would be available, that dogs could go and run and play in an area, get their mojo out, and then go on leash to go for a walk. Because sometimes that's easier for the owner as well, which is the case that I've experienced with my friends, that the dogs just need to get out and get a good run. And so is there anywhere that we could put a dog park on the other side of the island so that that might be an option for people that's accessible as well? Like at the meadow, you can easily flat walk to the dog park where people can run their dogs before they walk in the park on leash.
How about we add that to a future agenda item? And it sounds like there's a number of dog issues that we could talk about. And maybe we should also just try and focus on this part that's in front of us. Sue Ellen, did you still want to speak to that?
Yeah, I did. Thank you. I support that, Claudia. I think that's a good idea. And I support Nicola's, lots of people have expressed dogs are a passionate issue, and it can take up tons of energy and time and emotion. But I will just add also about Headwaters Park is that the boardwalk there was very carefully designed not to allow or invite dogs to go off leash. It's got a funnel shaped kind of gathering point at both ends towards the boardwalk, a little bit. It's changed a little bit over time. And then the height of those wires that go across are to keep dogs on the leash, and we took dogs out and measured them and everything, and the Conservancy put those up. So it's again, it's designed to protect the environment from dogs. I don't know how long that'll last or whatever, but just so people know. Thank you.
Okay, Jeremy?
Yeah, I'm a bit conflicted on all of this, as maybe some of you are as well. I think we have to strive to be accommodating of people who want to run their dogs off lead, but not indulgently, and not in any way that would compromise the intentions of wildlife and wild nature preserves. I think this gets down to I like Carla's idea of maybe isolating some areas that are more accommodating of off lead. The other side of that coin, it would be to define exactly more precisely the areas that are really sensitive and simply can't deal with dogs off lead. And perhaps before we even make a decision, we should be really clear on this, because it can be quite divisive. I have a lot of friends. I'm no longer a dog owner, but I do really like dogs, and I have a lot of friends who are dog owners, so I'm a vicarious dog owner, as it were. But I appreciate all of those perspectives, and no less really the importance of preserving the natural environment from whatever depredations might happen because of dogs running wild. And I think it really needs to be looked at. I don't think we can come up with a really quick solution without a lot of definitions, more concise definitions being made about exactly what are dog off lead viable areas versus those that where it's just too dodgy. You don't want to risk having them off lead. I mean, sure, it means more work.
I was going to add that it would be interesting to look at length of trails and what percentage of trails on Bowen are off leash, and what the headwaters, Quarry, and Grafton would be the only on leash areas other than Metro Van's Crippen. I think it's we want to be fair to everyone, but I think we're talking about a very small percentage of what is available on the island of being on leash. And
I think that's true, but it's also important to remember that a lot of dog owners aren't going to be traipsing off onto crown lands to walk their dogs. They're going to look for something that's relatively quick and easy. And, you know, some of those people, maybe many of them, are going to want to be able to have their dogs off lead. It's just a consideration. It's just the way people think. If you have a dog, and we should be looking to be accommodating to the extent that that's realistic.
Well, it sounds like there is all these different opinions on the committee. So maybe it sounded at first that with Grafton, everyone kind of felt a little better about that choice, but then we haven't had time to think on the headwaters and Quarry Park. Can you remind us, Carla, why did that go to the Environment and Climate Change Committee?
So mainly it was just went there because Kathy had brought up issues of user conflict and also of nesting birds. So that's the environment issue, kind of went to them for that reason.
Mhm.
So
And did we have what is, so it's not a referral to us right now?
no, it's not a referral, but Kathy spoke to both committees. So I just wanted this committee, because I had already emailed this committee about it because
Right.
of the other Grafton Lake issue, and it probably got a little confused, but
Yeah, sorry.
Mm.
Okay, thanks for that clarification. Chuck, and then why don't we talk about whether we want to table the recommendation regarding Headwaters and Quarry Park, or if this is something that needs to go in around the same time to council as the recommendation that's coming from climate change and environment. So Chuck, sorry, go ahead.
So, yeah, just a thought about, rather than creating a dog park, designating certain trails or even trails that are adjacent to Quarry Park and Headwaters to be off-leash trails. So that rather than a full park area, just designate trails and then identify them on the maps that are created so that dog users know which are off-leash, and then they can have their dogs on leash on most of the trails, and then there'll be a section where they can off leash the dogs. That might be a compromise as well, and something that we can discuss at one of our next meetings.
Aren't they already off leash if they're adjacent to the places that are on leash?
I think Chuck is suggesting, correct me if I'm wrong, but that some of Quarry Park trails could be on leash and some could be off leash. And the map would show which loop could be dog owners with their dogs off leash and which ones they have to have them leashed.
Not adjacent
Exactly.
to internal. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so is that the general feeling that we should put this onto our next agenda, or are you wanting to take a vote on this now?
I thought it sounded like everyone was fairly supportive of Grafton Lake being an on-leash area, and then that the rest would have to be discussed later.
That's my sense too. Okay, let's just talk about Grafton then. It's
Well,
too
I just-
small for me to read. So, Steph, would you mind?
Yeah, I just have the committee recommend that Grafton Lake Nature Park require that dogs be on leash. And my notes below are to be placed in the next meeting agenda about Headwaters Park and Quarry Park and designated off-leash trails and park.
Okay, Rob?
Just a question. Do we need to consider public education around the reasons behind this recommendation? Is that something that should go in tandem with this? That something be put together for public education as part of this?
I'd say yes, and that was also suggested by the Environment and Climate Action Committee. That was a really important part of like that signage be more educational than like just the prohibitive kind of, you can't do this, more about there are birds nesting here, in order to protect them, please put your dog on a leash kind of thing. That was kind of the approach that should be taken.
The Conservancy, I believe, has a very nice signage about why dogs are not allowed in the wildlife refuge at the Cape. And I think that, yeah, that really does help to people understand why there is a good reason why, even though it's unfortunate, but sometimes dogs and the reasons we protect these green spaces are at odds, and that's
So I've just captured some of that, but I did want to question if the vulnerable ecosystem piece is more appropriate under the environment committee, and does this one want to talk about user conflict or user, like, as far as the
Well,
rest?
I believe we're both, we can say both because we represent the user experience and the environmental aspect and greenway aspect of parks and trails.
Okay, is conflict too strong of a word, do you think?
A little bit.
User experience.
I don't know that I'm
Max?
gonna develop any educational signage around user experience though.
I have some ideas.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that's where that was being added.
Okay, get rid of that then.
Mhm.
Sorry, just
I
conflict.
would just take out including from including onward. Yeah, you don't have to explain it right now.
And is this, are we recommending to council or just to staff like the top one? Does it need to say council? Direct staff?
They always should. I just wasn't sure if was it council would designate the park, Carla, or you can just.
Council would just direct staff
Okay.
to install signage at the park, and then
Okay.
or just say, you can just say to require. Well,
Yeah,
Here.
direct staff to require that dogs be on leash at Grafton Lake Nature Park, in Grafton Lake Nature Park. And while that's being crafted, can I have someone move to accept this recommendation, put forward this recommendation for Grafton Lake only? Nicola, thank you. And seconded, Rob, and all in favor for Grafton? I think that's everyone. Yes, thank you. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Carla. And thank you for I hope I wasn't abrupt with anyone. Sometimes it's hard to move between people and not sound like I'm cutting someone off. Okay, so Carla, I think there's a couple of other things under your staff update 5.1 that we haven't heard about.
So I'm not going to go into the sensitive ecosystems inventory. It was just a map shared with me by Metro Vancouver. I just wanted you guys to be able to have a look at it, so I'm sharing it in the staff update. I'm going to speed through this a little bit because I really want to get to the things at the end of the agenda. And the Grafton Lake, the Headwaters and Quarry Park celebration went well on the weekend. We had about 30 different people show up. I'm sure some of them were just there for a hike anyways, but I still appreciated it nonetheless. We had a little craft and scavenger hunt, and we'll do some communications and share the scavenger hunt for anyone that wants to do it in their spare time. The other thing on the update was the mosquito fish. So this was just interesting. I mean, it could be possibly terrible news, but there were 2 invasive mosquito fish found in Grafton Lake. The ID was confirmed by like a specialist at the Royal BC Museum. Yeah. So they were sent into him, and then he posted them on iNaturalist. It's pretty weird because they weren't found in BC before, but apparently, actually, we've realized now that there's like one other population near Abbotsford, I think, or Richmond. So anyways, it was just for your interest. Hopefully it doesn't become an issue and it was just a fluke, but because they're not allowed in BC or sold here at all. But just something to watch out for, I guess, when you're around Grafton Lake. They just look like a little guppy. They have a teardrop under their eye if you see any around, but they're just teeny little fish. Okay. That's all I'd like to update on. Oh, and just the compost facility, we're going to council on December 11th to present the preliminary design for the compost facility, if anyone's interested in watching that. And that's all I wanted to update on for now.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. 5.2 is Bryn Elliott is
Bryn is not here, and I need to be clear that he did not say he would be here, but I put his name on it anyways and could possibly have upset him in that regard. So my apologies. I did explain to him that we just have that as a standing item. So moving forward, there will be no name on it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. 5.3, council and committees update from Sue Ellen, please.
Sure, I'll keep this really brief. Council has been very busy with lots of things. We're starting to finalize the strategic plan for next year. So far, it looks really positive. An OCP update will be going ahead. Official community plan. So that'll include the environment, and that will be a big thing for the committee and probably lots of committees to be involved in. And I have an Islands Trust meeting on next week in Victoria. And stay tuned on Cape Roger Curtis. We haven't heard anything back yet from Metro Vancouver. And congratulations, Carla, on nice write-up in the Tyee today about the eelgrass, and there's a photo credited to Carla in it. So if you look at the Tyee, it's about Mannion Bay and how Bowen Island had the first voluntary eelgrass buoys. They're working, first ones in Canada. Thank you.
That's so cool. I've been waiting for that. Thanks for letting me know.
That's great. Well done, Carla.
Oh, one more thing is just that the Bowen Island Conservancy AGM was on the weekend, and the interesting news about that is that there was a full quorum of council there. There was 5 out of 7 councillors attended, and this is sort of a good prospect in terms of parks and nature. And they mentioned the Conservancy mentioned the memorandum of understanding that council signed with the Bowen Island Conservancy, just a general kind of working together one. Thank you.
Thank you. So new business, renaming beaches, Pebble at Cape Roger Curtis and Crayola at out at Blue Water. Carla.
Thanks. So Bob came to talk to us at our last meeting about Crayola Beach and the history there and the, you know, potential neighborhood conflict over what the name of the beach is. I had no idea that there was an issue until he brought it to my attention. We just knew about the sign was getting stolen over and over again from, and it's funny because when I was looking this up, I saw pictures from like 2011 when that was when they installed the steel post. It was like a heavy steel post that they filled with concrete so that no one could steal the sign because the sign kept getting taken down. And so I don't know if that was because of the conflict over the name or if someone in the neighborhood just didn't want the public using that beach or what it was. Either way, I suggested to Bob when he came to speak to me that maybe a good idea would be just renaming the beach completely, you know, in the spirit of reconciliation, that maybe this beach has a longer history than what we're aware of. We had thought about doing the same for Pebble Beach a long time ago. Sue-Ann mentioned that at our last meeting because Pebble Beach and Pebbly Beach are so the names are so close that there's some confusion there, and especially with any kind of emergency response, that can be an issue. When we tried to do it, when we looked into it anyways, I think it was in 2018 or 2019, we weren't sure how to do it. And I think at that time, the Squamish Nation, you know, didn't have something in place for renaming without it being kind of they didn't necessarily have staff to do that. I think there was some talk about having, you know, local governments wanted to get all this stuff from the Squamish Nation. Like they're like, okay, name this for me, consult on this, do this. And so, you know, it wasn't working for them at the time. And so it was quite difficult, but they do have a language department now. I was in touch with them about the Quarry and Headwaters Park interpretive signs. We did some native names of flora and fauna on those signs, and I asked them who to speak to about renaming the beaches. And they said, just fill out an application and we can do that for you, no problem. So I'm wondering if everyone would be supportive of that idea. And yeah, it is in the parks plan as the recommendation says, and just want to hear your thoughts.
Sue Ellen?
I think it's a great idea. I know Squamish Nation has a referrals portal now. They have an easy way. They've set it up so that they can, what's the word, when you come into the emergency department, you get sorted out who has to be seen immediately.
Dispatch?
Triage.
So, yes, triage. So
Yeah.
they can sort of prioritize the requests. And the other good reason I think it's a good, well, anyway, they've got the system in place, and they're inviting that kind of they inviting people to ask them questions and invite their input. And also council has just passed a motion to ask Squamish Nation about a second name for the new Eagle Gathering stage, which is that little stage down by the library in the cultural corner there. So they'll be asking them about that as well. So it makes sense to make it a batch ask. Might have a better be more efficient for everybody and more fun to respond. So over.
Yeah.
Well, I think that we should honor Bob's presentation by sticking to, you know, his request was, can we rename it? Essentially, can we rename it Blue Water Beach? I think maybe what we could do is invite more neighborhood feedback so that it wouldn't just be Bob and another neighbor advancing that idea, but it would we would want to see a consensus amongst the neighbors for the name returning to Blue Water Beach. And if they can't reach consensus, then perhaps go the route of having the Squamish language resource people naming it.
Any further comments? Okay, so Penny?
Sorry, I think Ben had his hand up first.
Thank you, Penny. I just want to say that this whole concept is really exciting, Carla. I think like it's a great move forward for us to be looking into these things and moving forward with reconciliation in a meaningful way. And I think there are opportunities here for us to do it. So I think I applaud you for making this, getting it going. Good job.
Thanks, Ben. And thanks for, I think you brought it up at the last meeting as well. And I thought that was really interesting because I was like, I'm going to say that later. So.
And I was just going to add to that. I think that incorporating the Squamish language in and around Bowen Island is a great step forward.
Agreed. Okay, well, let's put it forward and each can vote. So can I have someone move for the recommendation?
The recommendation on screen, it's not short. Is that okay?
Did you read it?
You can
Sorry?
read it. I'll just put it on screen because it's so long.
Yeah, yeah, I'll read it, sure. Can you make it bigger? though? Like way bigger, like fill the screen with those words.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have my computer distance glasses on.
There we go.
Thank
Okay.
you. Whereas the BIM 2018 to 2038 Parks Plan recommends renaming key sites of significance to Squamish Nation names, item 6.2.3, and whereas the similarity of Pebble Beach and Pebbly Beach may cause disruptions to effective emergency response, and whereas there is some dispute over whether the appropriate name of a West Side neighborhood beach is Blue Water or Crayola, therefore be it resolved that the Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee recommend that Council direct staff to initiate a process to rename Pebble and Crayola beaches in consultation with the Squamish Nation.
I'll go right.
Can someone move that we vote on this wording? Ben, thank you. Can someone second it? Nicola, thank you. All in favor? Any dissenting? Thank
Chuck.
you. Chuck, it's dissenting, and that's everyone. So, okay, thank you, everyone.
Claudia, I would agree to that if there was an additional sentence about staff getting some feedback from the neighbors and submitting that with the request to the Squamish resource people.
I think
I think that we shouldn't just disconnect what Bob and the other neighbors are thinking. I think we would show
I
disrespect.
think there should be good communication with them, and hopefully Carla can do that. But I think what the people that did vote for it was not to go to the neighbors, and that this was an opportunity to let the Squamish Nation choose the name. But if other people want to revisit it or go to the neighbors first before, I think that's a different that changes the meaning of this recommendation. Does anyone see?
I would just add that there's an opportunity with the application with the Squamish Nation to add some context for them, so we can tell them what names we've used, in our settler history, and they could choose to incorporate those in the name if they wanted to or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Sue Ellen.
Also, this would be inviting suggestions from Squamish Nation and or however it was worded. I think it would have to come to council, and all the neighbors would have an opportunity to weigh in probably a number of times during that, or at least when it comes to council. Because it has already been through a bunch of public input through the development of the parks plan, and that's why the recommendation about First Nations names is in the parks plan as a something to guide the community. It came through public input at that time. So, but anyway, it's not. I hear you.
Okay, so if everyone's comfortable the way we've left the voting, then we will proceed. And we have 6.2, Ralph Adolph Memorial Bench. Carla's going to speak to this.
Okay, last time. So Ralph contacted me. I know, he contacted me.
Are the show tonight, girl.
This is just one of the memorial bench requests that I received quite a while back, I think early in the spring. And so it kind of brought up the whole bench policy idea. And so, you know, we had one go through, but I didn't want to pressure the committee into approving all of these, you know, until we had the policy in place. But then that was taking a while. So I didn't want to leave Ralph waiting any longer. So I wanted to go ahead and bring this to the committee before the bench policy was finalized. I'm really happy that that everyone approved of the policy this evening. In the meantime, I'm just wondering if you're supportive of going ahead with this memorial bench. This is a spot out at the Cape. It is partway between Roger Curtis Beach and Lighthouse. So there is a bench at Roger Curtis Beach, or Pebble Beach rather. See, this is why it's confusing. So at Pebble Beach, and there's another bench going in at Lighthouse Lane. This is another one that we previously approved. And so this is kind of in between those two. You know, the view is quite beautiful. I don't think I put the wording in here. The plaque says something along the lines of in memorial of, I forget their names, but his parents who loved this view and this place. And I think that it was considered to put it back here, but then we thought it would be a little nicer in the front here, and the trail is quite wide, so there is space to do it. So I'm just wondering if the committee is in support of allowing Ralph Adolphs to install this memorial bench. And because I would like to have the recommendation from the Parks and Trails committees, because I would, in absence of the policy, I would still need a CPSA, which is the Collaborative Project Services Agreement, which is how we've been doing the benches up till now. And I have to have council approval to enter into that agreement. So it's nice to have the Parks and Trails recommendation for that.
Does anyone have any questions or comments? Does everyone know how they feel about it? Do we need any more information? Or are we good to vote? And Sue Ellen has got her hand up. Go ahead.
I'm just wondering, Carla, can you remind me how wide the trail right away is there?
It's 6 meters. Yeah.
Is there going to be any conflict with the owners of the properties adjacent to where the bench is going in?
I don't believe so. I think that the trail is wide enough there. 6 meters is pretty wide. I mean, that's like 18 feet, almost 20 feet. So I think that there's quite a bit of space there. I was going to go ahead and tell the neighbors beforehand. There is an option of getting a survey to ensure that it's on, that it gets installed right on the easement. And I suggested that we could do that to Ralph. But I mean, if there's not a conflict, I don't.
And who would pay for the survey?
It would be the Adolphs family.
And Penny has her hand up.
Thanks, Scotty. I just have a preference for the bench to be on the upland side versus I feel like it might be a barrier between people walking and the water and the view, but it's just a preference that I wanted to state.
Anyone else feel one way or the other that they'd like it somewhere else? Or I can see your point, Penny, that for a little while along there, yeah, your view is obscured as you walk along. Sue Ellen?
It's interesting. It's like every view or every almost few steps along the trail is different. And for example, when we put the whale watching bench, down at the I don't know what's that called? Lighthouse. It's not Lighthouse Lane. It's the other one.
Pebble Beach.
Pebble Beach. Thank you. We put it on the downhill side, but the land is sloping a little differently, and it was going to have the interpretive sign with it. So that was better at the time. You know, we could all go out there and have a look, but I mean, the photo is pretty clear, and I think it would be good if people gave Carla an idea, but I think we should probably leave it up to Carla. But I think it's good to give your sensibility, because it's pretty wide open there, isn't it? Part of the challenge is also that how would it, one of the reasons I like Penny's suggestion is because it might help people stay on the trail or the uphill part, rather than what I don't want is for the whole downhill area to become trespassed on, and more like Lighthouse Park, which has hardly any vegetation left at all after 50 years or whatever. Anyway, just some ideas. I'm curious what other people think.
Well, I'm now thinking about that, Sue Ellen, that's really true. As soon as you put the bench in front, it leads people either who were on the bench, or it invites them onto the bluff, which people will go to the bluff. But I think if we can discourage that, because that's the idea, is that they stay on the trail only. And there's all the private land issues, and that kind of herbaceous cover is really sensitive to trampling. So I would like it to be on the non-ocean side. And if there's anyone else, Carla?
Sorry, I'm remembering now, because we went on this walkabout quite a while ago, that I think that we decided that this would be the better side, only because if you can see right here that this is bedrock. And so and also there's like mature trees here. So I think that trying to dig down on this side was probably going to be too hard, or would at least, I mean, and you could build on top, but then it would be like a step up to get to the bench. So I guess maybe that's just a consideration. So, you know, I'm happy to say that it can go on that side, but maybe with the understanding that it might need to be a step up.
Yeah, the wording can allow for that. Sue Ellen?
Just at some point, I think it might be worth, and it doesn't have to be tonight, obviously, but at some point it might be worth talking together about how can we best conserve the sensitive ecosystem on the bluff, and maybe people can think about it, and we can talk about it another time.
Okay.
I was thinking too, I just wanted to mention that just looking at this map and thinking that we have a bench here, and we have a bench here, and we have a bench at Collingwood, I think that this is okay to have this one in between, and that maybe there would be room for one more in between the other two trailheads, but that would be the cutoff, right? Because everybody wants a bench at Cape Roger Curtis, and I know that there'll be a lot more requests. I think it's a nice spot to have benches, because I think it's a fairly accessible trail that has parking nearby, you know, so it's, and it has beautiful views, so it makes sense. But I think that this is one of those places where we can limit benches.
Sounds good. And Jeremy?
I just wondered, Carla, if there were issues with outcropping rock there, could the bench be moved down and still kept on the landward side of the trail?
Oh, you mean along the trail, further along?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Oh yeah, and then just make the trail a little wider,
Or
like put it there, but then
yeah,
the trail a bit
yeah,
wider.
just not where there's outcropping rock, but just more accommodating of the structure itself, and then keep it on the landward side facing outward.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I think that would totally work. It's quite curved there too, so as long as we find a spot where it's kind of curved in and
Sure.
across, yeah.
Okay.
So do we want those specifications included in the recommendation? Or is it, or just trust Carla to have captured that?
I think just saying that, yeah, that it would be Carla's lead, yeah, what she determines with the input that she's had, I'm sure, to consider, but whether that has to be worded in there or not, I'm not sure. You know better.
So recommend that council direct staff to enter into a CPSA with Ralph Adolph regarding the installation of Merrill Beach at Cape Roger Curtis with consideration of the comments provided at its November 28th meeting.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, can you see that?
Uh-huh.
Nope.
Really well.
Right, there we go.
All right. So the recommendation is as follows: that the Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee recommend that council direct staff to enter into a collaborative project services agreement with Ralph Adolph regarding the installation of a memorial bench at Cape Roger Curtis with consideration of the comments provided at its November 28th, 2023 meeting. And I have someone move to vote on this recommendation. Penny, thank you. And seconded. Jeremy, thank you. All in favor?
There's so much municipal business taking place tonight. Council's going to be busy.
Oh, staff. Thank you, Carla. Other business. We didn't add anything, or did we? No.
It got put into 4.3.
Right. Okay, and then information items, and I don't believe there's any people in the audience here to ask questions, are there?
No.
No. Okay. Shall we determine next meeting now or?
No.
No. Okay. Then we're on to number 10, which is adjournment.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you so much for
Christmas.
spending your
Happy holidays.
Yeah,
Merry
happy holidays,
Christmas.
everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Non-denominational, come on.
Thanks,
Season's
everyone.
greetings. Season's greetings.
Season's greetings. Thanks so much, everyone. That was a great meeting.
Good night.
Thanks, Carla, for all the hard work.
Thank you.
Thanks.